Hello, my name's Jimmy Smith from the Wine with Jimmy YouTube channel. I am the owner of West London Wine School, South London Wine School, and a wine bar called Streatham Wine House. I'm a wine educator, a wine researcher, writer, and buyer. Welcome to our Understanding Northern Rhone for the WSET Level 3. If you are a student of WSET and you are looking at your Level 3, this is very useful for you to understand this unit, as it comes with all the information, a Google Earth video to get a real feel of the area, plus then a working written question so you know what to expect when it comes to the examination. We will work through that together so you'll be able to fully understand. Here is the Northern Rhone, a gorgeous area which accounts for really only about 5% of the total Rhone Valley. The picture here is of the Chapelle d'Hermitage, which is on the top of the Hermitage Hill. This is a classic building which is today owned by Paul Jabolet, and it's in front of some Michel Chapoutier vines. We'll talk about this a little bit later on. Okay, so as mentioned, I am Jimmy Smith. At the bottom, there are all of our social media handles. At Wine with Jimmy is my YouTube and my Instagram and Twitter handle. The Wine School, South London and West London Wine School, and my wine bar, Streatham Wine House. So let's look at the Northern Rhone. We are going to this box down here in the southeastern part of France. This area is one of the most beautiful areas of France. It is below Lyon, and Lyon is the southern tip of Beaujolais, and it is north of the southern Rhone Valley. As I mentioned, it's about 4,500 hectares vines, about 5% of the total of the Rhone Valley. And this area is continental, but it is a moderate continental climate. So it is not the hottest, and that is due to its weather and its altitude. That is the Mistral and then the Massif Central, and we'll look at those in a little bit. Here is a better close-up map for you of the Northern Rhone. And to get your whereabouts, let me just give you the two bits which really cap off the Northern Rhone. To the north is the small city of Vienne, and then to the south is the slightly larger city of Valence, the very gastronomical city of Valence. So Northern Rhone is sandwiched between those two V cities, Vienne and Valence, with all of its AOC cru wines. It follows the Rhone River. As you can see, it starts its way in the north here because it comes from the Alps as it heads south going down towards the Mediterranean. This is a very important river, and we'll talk about that in a second. You'll see on the left-hand side is the Massif Central, which is the big mountain range of central and sort of central southeastern France, which then heads its way south, and then it goes west into the Montagne de Noir, the Black Mountain Range, which lies north of the Languedoc. So it's quite an extensive area, and that gives you an idea of this zone. I've mentioned that it is an area which has less than 5,000 hectares of vines, so it's a very small area, loved by wine collectors and wine drinkers, because really here it's all about premium wine. It's the lowest quality you get here is good usually, and the best is outstanding. Of course, it's on very narrow and steep sites because of the dominating mountain range here, the Massif Central, and the vineyards nestle in the foothills of the Massif Central. So it's got some good altitude at this area. Also, the vineyards then, as they're in the foothills, they have the mountains behind them, but down in front of them, it has the Rhone River. And the vineyards will be close to that river as possible to benefit from the warmth due to this being only a moderate climate. So that is very important to help warmth with that water retention of the river to really gain warmth around the vines of Syrah, for instance. The very best sites will be on south facing, of course, because this is a moderate climate, and that's what you need to ripen varieties such as Syrah and Viognier. You need good midday and afternoon warmth to fully ripen it. And then many of the vineyards will be found in small, what's called reclevés, or small valleys, which lead into the Rhone and then offer a little bit of sheltering effect from the very powerful Mistral wind. In fact, I'm going to put this in, let's do this in a dark blue, and I'll underline it there in dark blue. Why? Because I'm going to show you what happens with this Mistral wind. The Mistral wind will originally come from the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream comes from the Atlantic. That moves its way across central France from west to east. Some of that is channeled up towards the Paris basin and then goes on towards Belgium and Holland, some of it up towards Britain. Some of it is pulled east, and that is towards the Vosges Mountains, where it hits the Vosges Mountains before Alsace. And then some of it is pulled south by the warm air mass of the Mediterranean, and that's what we're focusing on here. So it comes down here and starts to gain a hell of a lot of momentum as it's pulled south, and that can cause issues. It actually can be a pro, like it chases away disease and pest issues, but in terms of the negative is that it can do two things here. The Mistral wind can cause problems with flowering. So at the earliest stages of summer, so that late spring and summer when the vines are flowering, if it's too windy, the blossom will be shed, causing coulure, which is that blossom shedding, and that dramatically reduces yield. Also, if it is very dramatic, the Mistral, and very stormy, over 60, 70 kilometers an hour, and quite frequent, this can cause damage and destruction, certainly to younger vines. So the Mistral is a big problem here, an intense weather pattern. Vines will need to have support, and the support will be by stakes. Sometimes these are single stakes, and other times they are things called échalas. And échalas are these things that are like teepee structures. Okay, I can scribble that down here. Échalas. There you go. So it's the plural form of it. And these are like teepee structures which give you structure and protect it against the Mistral wind. Okay, so there's some more climatical weather conditions and geographical and topographical conditions of the Northern Rhone. It's the most northern limit for this grape. We're going to talk about two key grape varieties, Syrah and Viognier. These are the two grapes you need to be able to talk about. The other two grapes, Marsanne and Roussin, are two grapes that you need to be able to recognize. So Syrah, of course, is the key grape here, which crafts all of the red wines. So this is the kind of spiritual home of the Syrah grape. One of its parents is from the Ardèche, just to the west. Another parent is to the Alps, just to the east. So if you draw the middle part of that, of the two parents, you hit the Northern Rhone, which is here. So we say that Syrah is kind of at home in this zone. It's the most northerly limit. It just about grows, and that's due to that altitude, of course, due to the Massif Central, but the cooling effect of the Mistral wind. So it's a bit of a longer season here for Syrah, and that is a major reason why you can get some rather good tannic structures from the wine. But of course, to ripen it fully, you'll have the most prized sites being on steep, south-facing slopes in places like Côte-Rôtie, for instance, Corniche, areas like Hermitage, and the very best bits of places like Sanchez F. Traditionally here, the Syrah was co-planted with Marsanne and Roussin, and then also co-fermented. And this fermentation with white grapes with the Marsanne and Roussin will help stabilize the red grape color extraction. Really a way of sort of extracting it gently. But this is done very uncommonly today. Whites can be blended into Syrah, but not often co-fermented for Marsanne and Roussin. Viognier can be both co-fermented and blended. It is added, though, to Syrah only in Côte-Rôtie, and it's added really for more of its aromatic intensity, but must be used at care because it can actually reduce Syrah's tannic structure and acidity far too much. They use oak, of course. Syrah is really very reductive. It needs lots of oxidative working to bring out its softness and complexity. So new oak and larger oak casks will be used to do that with Syrah, and a combination often. So the grape variety Syrah, of course, now it will nearly always have high acidity and normally produce full-bodied wines, but the tannins can be varied, and this depends on the cru, the location within the Northern Rhone. The majority of them will be full-bodied, but there are some, certainly Creuse Hermitage, that will be more medium-bodied and sometimes even towards light, due to the fact that it is not grown on slopes and it's on flatter plains that are more limestone soils, making more brighter, fresher, but not so tannic wines. The characteristics that you are looking at really for Syrah are as follows, the aromas. So it is a black fruited dominant style. Things like your classic sort of blackberry character, your black cherry, black plum as well. So dark, rich fruit is common. There can be some red fruited notes, certainly in Creuse Hermitage. Oak is commonly used, but Syrah will have this very spicy edge. And it's fresh black pepper, fresh ground black pepper, even white pepper as well, clove, cardamom, also found, and cinnamon. Now, if it is oak matured and new oak, a bit of this chocolatey touch. And if it is a hot vintage, the black pepper may be more like a licorice character. And licorice is a common character in Corniche, for instance. Viognier is our key white grape variety. Now, Viognier as a style is a grape that has fallen out of favour but made a bit of a comeback. The reason being is that Viognier is a difficult grape to cultivate. So after the political, social issues of the late 19th century and most of the 20th century, farmers turned to easier to cultivate grapes. Viognier, of course, was left on the wayside. And in fact, in 1960, there was only around 7 hectares of Viognier left in France. Today, there is plenty more. There's about 150 hectares in the Northern Rhone, for instance, which is its key area. It is related to Syrah, so we do say that the Northern Rhone is its home. It must be picked ripe and late enough to achieve its full flavour ripeness. So that is one issue, because Viognier will lack acidity due to this. Picking early means you might not get enough flavour. There are many affordable Viogniers out there that sadly have a lack of the aromatic due to the fact that they've been picked a bit earlier for the acidity. But really, to get its full whack of character, its aromatic, you must pick when it's ripe. Due to the fact that it sheds its blossom easy, it has issues with mildew, it's susceptible to botrytis. All of these issues mean that you will find lower yields are produced from Viognier. It is remarkably low yielding, certainly from old vines. Grapes will need carefully handled as well. They will need to be worked with very consciously when it comes to pressing, because the wines have a real glycerol effect. So skin contact will often have to be avoided, as there may be an issue with this kind of over-oily texture, which can overpower the aromatic. So it must be worked with very carefully. Some new oak is used with Viognier. There is a movement towards this. However, the traditional styles are better because they will protect the aromatics. Too much new oak may inhibit the aromatic character of Viognier. And some of the really hot years with late harvest styles can be made into ones with a bit of sugar. So these can be off-dry style Viogniers. What do we expect? Well, let's look at the bottom line here. Low acidity is a key thing immediately. This low acidity means you will not get fresh citric fruits. You tend to get sweet compounds. Things like peaches, apricots, nectarines are very common. Maybe something like sweet pear notes as well may be found. In terms of the alcohols, this may help push sort of more aromatics and volatile compounds. So you may find, let me just underline high alcohol down here in red. So you may find that you will get these wonderful aromatics, It may be perfume, it may be violet, it may be rose, it may be blossom, jasmine. It does have quite a lot of these floral perfume characters, certainly if it is ripe. And maybe expect a little bit of body as well. I mean, that is classic. You will get these full-bodied styles behind Viognier. So really rich, waxy, oily textures behind them. Now, let's talk through our key villages, which we call in the Rhone Valley crus. These are not Grand Crus or Premier Crus. They are villages which call themselves crus. So the first one in the north is the AOC of Côte Rôtie, or roasted slope. This is the northerly tip of the Northern Rhone, which has the city of Vienne just to its east, and then at its heart, the city of Ampuis. So this is just here. Côte Rôtie means roasted slope, as the direction of the slopes face this kind of south-southeast, and therefore they get plenty of midday and afternoon sun. This means that they get very, very ripe, and that's why they call it the roasted slope. These were slopes first cultivated and built by the Romans. These are wines that are quite powerful, but elegant, with great acidities and tannins, and an ability to age very, very well. The last thing to mention is that some of the vineyards are co-planted with Viognier, and that means that Viognier can be allowed in co-fermentation or blended at a later stage, up to 20%. This is very uncommon. It tends to be, if it is blended, up to 5%, but that is normally quite uncommon as well. More are producing 100% Syrah, and that's the real key thing you need to know. Côte Rôtie is Syrah, red wines only, potentially with a bit of Viognier blended in. Then next door to it, this is just to the west, is the village of Condrieu, as you're heading towards the bend of the Rhone as it starts to head south past Malaval. This is the AOC of Condrieu, which must be white only and only Viognier. So this is a very unusual place, and we call it the spiritual home of Viognier. The very best sites, and it's not a big area, it's just over 100 hectares. The best are from low-yielding old vines on those very steep terraces, which are very similar in appearance to Côte Rôtie, but tend to face a little bit more east. So we'll see a video of that coming up in a bit. There is one individual chateau that has its own AOC, and that is the AOC of Chateau Grier, which is found in Condrieu. But it has its own AOC, making very similar wines, quite a famous AOC. Then we head south of that and overlapping a little bit are the vineyards of Sanchez F. So that pretty much stretches from here in Condrieu or near Condrieu all the way down to the city of Tournon. It looks like it's a very large area, but it's in fact the second biggest cru behind Crow's Hermitage. It's not a one contiguous block of vineyards because it is in the Massif Central foothills, so it's very scattered. But it is the second biggest in volume of production. Sanchez F will make reds, and I've got reds from Syrah with a little asterisk because you are allowed to blend in Marsanne and Roussanne, although this tends to be quite uncommon today. You can also make Sanchez F Blanc, and that is from Marsanne and Roussanne, and they can be quite lovely and complex wines. The very best sites for the reds will come from the north tip and the south tip of Sanchez F. So this will be from the part near Condrieu and then the part which is down near Tournon. And we'll see some slopes of those in the video coming up as well. So this is the best bits, the steepest bits where you find the most complex Sanchez Fs. There are some wines that are made by small percentages of semi-carbonic, and this will give fresher wines, and that tends to be in the middle part of Sanchez F. Then as we head to the bottom part of our map and we cross the river to the actual left bank, and that's on the right of this picture, that is Hermitage and Gros Hermitage. These are two quite famous places. First of all, the AOC of Hermitage is named after the hill. The hill is called Hermitage, and this is a lovely steep granitic hill which makes probably the most powerful Syrah in the whole of the Northern Rhone. So that is reds from Syrah. They are allowed percentages of Marsanne and Roussanne blended in, but this is quite rare. There are also whites called Hermitage, which are made from Marsanne and Roussanne, and these tend to be really complex as well. And the final point to make here, and I'll underline this in black, is the fact that most of the reds here are made from blends. That's plots dotted from around the hill. But there is an increasing amount of producers, certainly the likes of Delas and Chapoutier, which are making them from single vineyard sites, which are called lieux-dits. And these single vineyard sites will have a characteristic dependent on that locality. So maybe it's on the base of the slope, the mid slope, the top slope. Maybe it's southeast facing, southwest facing, and so on. So there are different Hermitages which can be found. Then there is the area called Creuse Hermitage, which sits on a fertile plain behind the hill of Hermitage. And this is the largest of the whole of the AOC Creuse of the Northern Rhone, accounting for about 35% of the Northern Rhone. It is red wines from Syrah. The same again, they are allowed to blend in Marsanne and Roussanne, but they don't tend to. The whites, same again, are from Marsanne and Roussanne. Affordable here, not as complex as Hermitage. This is the largest volume, as we mentioned, on the flatter plains, and that's why these wines tend to be some of the easiest going, with some of the lowest tannins and highest acids, mean they're more fresher and more pleasurably drinkable when young. And they can be wonderful wines as kind of a starting point, an introductory point to the Northern Rhone. And our last one is the Corniche, which is in the south. Last but not least, this is just north of the city, the gastronomical city of Valence. This is reds only from Syrah. No other grapes can be blended in, no whites made here, on southerly, well-exposed, sun-baked south-facing slopes. Corniche actually locally translates as sun-scorched or sun-burnt. So these make very powerful, rich style Syrahs, which often are called the New Worldist style of the Northern Rhone. So that is Corniche. Let's have a quick look at a video so you can get an idea and a feel for the area. So let me just pop this up here and I'll talk you through this. So this is a few minutes, I believe. I'm not sure how long actually. It's 3.5 minutes, but you'll get a real feel for the topography, the geography, the layout of the land of this area, which I think is mightily important when it comes to understanding wine regions. So here is France, of course, and we are going to start to focus on the Rhone Valley zone as the camera starts to screen in here. So there's Lyon towards the north, but here is our Northern Rhone. And if I just pause it, I won't pause it actually, it brings up lots of ads and such, but there is Vienne that we're going towards right now. And there's the Rhone River. So we're looking at the north tip of the Northern Rhone and we're flying into Vienne. And as we're going to go down the Rhone here, this is as it's actually heading mainly west. And right there on the slopes, you can see Côte Rôtie. Whoa, that was crazy. So these are the steep slopes of Côte Rôtie facing south-southeast. And of course, this is where you will find some of those wonderful terraces there that produce some of the most complex red wines of the area. We've now moved on to these steep slopes of Condrieu. And this is Vionnier's landscape in the Massif Central. We're still in those areas now of Condrieu. And this is where we find those rich, oily, textured styles of Viognier, really quite complex. We're now heading into the northern tip of Sanchez F. As we fly down the Rhone, you'll see some of these are some of the most well-prized Sanchez F vineyards. We're now going down all this way through Sanchez F. There's some more quite well-prized Sanchez F vineyards that make quite complex reds. And now we're heading down towards the southern tip. This is still some Sanchez F vineyards. Once again, this is the middle plains. And more so here. It is a big expansive area, but not the largest. And we are now heading down towards, hopefully, the hill of Hermitage, which is just about here. So this is the wonderful hill of Hermitage. A big granite outcrop will rotate around it. Most of the vineyards face southeast, south, and southwest. That is the town of Tarn Hermitage at its foothill. There is the bridge that goes across to Tournon. This makes the most powerful Syrah in the whole Northern Rhone, dotted from these exceedingly steep slopes, which are quite magnificent. And then behind it is the flatter expanse of Creuse Hermitage, the largest cru AOC, which makes some of the most lightest but acidic fresh styles of Syrahs from this landscape. They are delightful, they're great charcuterie reds, and they're rather lovely. And Corniche we won't look at on this map. Let's get back to our presentation. So we're now just going to talk through a partial written question here so you can understand what you are likely to get in the examination. So here is a map in the written part of your examinations, which are by far the most important. It has the lowest pass rate in the world at somewhere just over 50%. You will need to focus on the written the most. The tasting is not the one you need to worry about. So you may get a label question, you may get a table question, you may get a map question like this. Please identify the numbers on the map. And we've just gone through this. The most northerly tip here is Côte Rôtie, so that is number 1. Next door to that is Condrieu, which makes Vionnet only styles. Number 3 down here is behind the hill of Hermitage, that is Creuse Hermitage, and in the south is possibly the most sort of richest style, which is Corniche, which is right in that southern tip. So there is an exercise in terms of map cartology for you. What is the climate of the Northern Rhone? This actually probably should say 2 marks, because you need to put down, as always, please, the warmth of the climate and then the macroclimate. The macroclimate here is continental, and the warmth of the climate here is moderate. Okay, so that means this is not the warmest of areas due to the Mistral wind and also the altitude due to the Massif Central. A major weather pattern is what I just mentioned that affects this area. This is the Mistral wind. Please pop that down. And remember, that is what heads down from the north and towards the south as it heads its way down towards the Mediterranean. Name 2 issues why this weather pattern is a problem in the vineyard. Okay, so strong winds can easily damage and destroy vines, leading to a reduced production. Strong winds at flowering can cause coulure, which is shedding of the blossom, thus lowering yields, something we talked about a lot. There are 4 marks there. If a question does say 4 marks and it's asking you for 2 things, you'll need to state it and then you'll need to describe it a bit. If it is only asking for 2 marks, you'll just need to state a couple of things. Viognier is an important grape variety here in the Northern Rhone. State the commune, that's the village or cru, it is found the most, and describe the main characteristics of the grape variety. So of course the commune here is, and I'll underline these in a nice green for you because we're talking about white wine. The commune is Condrieu. Okay, and your style, full-bodied, low acidity with quite high alcohol. It has sweet fruit aromas like peach, apricot, and quince and pineapple. So have a look at that. You could say stone fruit and tropical fruit there. They are clusters. You need to then put a descriptor like you would do in your tasting. Peach, apricot, quince, pineapple, all those kind of things. It's very aromatically floral and perfume like acacia, orange blossom, honeysuckle. That's enough to get you plenty of marks in that area. Please remember, this is talking about the main characteristics of the grape variety in terms of how it tastes. Okay, so that is a very short written question for you there. We have much more of these available on our online portal, which is Wine with Jimmy online portal. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you've enjoyed your WSET Level 3 look at Northern Rhone and understanding this area. As I mentioned, I have my YouTube channel, which you are duly on. Please leave a comment below this video if you wish. If you have any other comments or questions, there is @WineWithJimmy on Twitter and Instagram. My wine school, which is the award-winning West London Wine School in Fulham in London. There is South London Wine School, which is based in Streatham and in Greenwich. And then also my wine bar in Streatham called Streatham Wine House. Please, next time you're in London, come for a class, come for a glass, or come for a bottle. It'll be great to see you. Thank you so much for your time.